these are some of the wiring problems that is the reason I took the dashboard out. There's just enough of this kind of mess that I need to get in here without obstructions. The dashboard needed to be reconditioned anyway, so no big deal. This wire has been melted, as you can see. The connector has been melted, and where it goes, and this is the automatic heat and air conditioning control. I wish I had the other model that was more of a manual setup, but anyway, I don't have a connector obviously for this car, but I do have these slide type connectors that go over the blades of this component, whatever it is. This component looks damaged. It looks like it got hot at one point. I cannot get that individually, and this control unit is only available as a used part from a salvage yard, and they are expensive and not tested, so you're taking a real chance. So I'm going to fix the wiring and just tackle one problem at a time. So let's get to this mess. Alright, here's part of the repair. Just soldered this in with heat shrink, and because there's two wires going into one wire, I elected to go this route with this type connector, mechanical type crimp. You could solder this, and I elect not to because it feels pretty darn tight to me, and then a piece of heat shrink that'll go over all of it, if I can get it with one hand here, like so, and that'll look nice and clean. Alright, I'm going to call that finished. Replace the burnt wire, replace the connector with two separate blade type connectors. Gets the job done. They are secured and wires are routed best I can figure. I'm not sure where this blue wire goes. It looks like it was aftermarket, but I'm not going to take it down until I know why it was installed, so let's reinstall it. And yep, one more repair done. And then you see something like this. The yellow and the brown are supposed to be connected to that yellow and brown going to a connector which goes to the radio. Why has that been cut off? I don't know. I'm going to reconnect it and see if we burn the radio up. Here's another example of what I've been tackling. I'm not showing everything on camera, but you can see this mess. This is just how I found it, and you can imagine why something got hot. So that's been melted. I think it's still intact. I'll get a better look at it, but I'll take all this off and get this all repaired. What a mess. This pin here I'm going to try to replace so I can put some new wire in there, and I won't be able to film that because there's no place to put the camera. But what I have is this cheap set here I found on, probably Amazon. They're very thin and very cheap feeling, but I'll see if one of these doesn't work to get down in there and release that pin. It's probably going to be something like that right there. The pin release didn't work because this thing was melted right into that terminal. So I had to get my heat gun out, and it didn't take too much to get that out, so I'm going to replace this. I don't know what I'm going to do about this. I could cut that off and put these two pins in separately, just with new blades there, but I'll see how far I can get on this. I'll replace this this first. So I did elect to pull this other pin out, and it came out as supposed to with this tool here. You just come down, and what you're doing is pushing this locking pin here out of the way so you can slide it out of the, I don't know what you call this, the casing or whatever. But I'm glad I did, because I got to get these wires repaired. That is not going to work. I have a good wiring book, but the schematics are so small I can't read them, so I always have to blow them up and label them so it makes it simple. And that is the trick to wires. They can be overwhelming, but once you break them down to individual circuits, it's not too bad. So that's what we have on a 68 Cadillac DeVille. That drawing represents this block here, the connection, and it's correct. So I think I got a good wiring diagram. This one down here, for example, is empty, and that checks out. The two dark greens are in the right place, and you can see from up there they go to different fuses. I have the fuses marked down here. for my own reference. In the future, if I work on the car, it'll make it a lot simpler, or a lot more simple, I guess is more correct. Anyway, we don't care about all that so much. We just wanted to get these wires identified, the ones I repaired. Now these two wires, the whites, they're just courtesy lights. The yellow one, however, is the main power from the battery to the switch. So we definitely want that in good order, and we've done that. And then the other wire in question, that keeps falling back behind here. This is a gray wire, and you can see is labeled to cruise control harness. This car doesn't have cruise control, and I've noticed back down in there, you can't see it, but that is connected to a wire that changes color, so I'll have to follow that out into the engine bay. I'm not too worried about that right now. I want to get these secured and identified so that if we come back, we know where these go. All right, I've been doing some research. These two wires was how, actually these three wires was how I found it. I just repaired them, if you remember that. So I'm going to take this tag off because this yellow wire, according to the schematic, goes to the terminal there that I have. Oh boy, it's kind of hard to get it all in here. Down here, separate than the courtesy lights. And he's got the yellow wire and the courtesy lights all into one. And then he's using this terminal 1 for something else that I haven't identified yet, but it does go through a body connection down here. Let's see, it's kind of back in the shadows. It's not really, yeah, so it's back in that bundle. I have identified the terminal that it goes to. It's Hotel Uniform, HU, and we'll have to find where that goes to make sense of this. So, fun times. All right, to prove, so I don't know why he did this when power wire should be separate. He made a separate power wire, which now I can't find. So he made this separate power wire coming from this body, oh good grief, connector. Then I find this wire, which is the same gauge and the same yellow wire as the top. So it looks like he, for some reason, cut this wire and spliced in to, or a different wire, which is a different color, to the power wire. It's probably not necessary to get into this much detail, but just in case there's somebody out there looking for this information, this is the body connector and the terminal that was identified as HU, Hotel Uniform, with the yellow wire that is from the battery source or power. The way he had it was a yellow wire was connected then to a smaller gauge gray wire that was in the correct place. What was throwing me is these three wires. The two white wires are supposed to go here in the unmarked terminal, but he had this yellow wire going here. Well, it ended up being cut anyway, so it wasn't hurting anything, except why would you not just put this yellow to where this yellow is supposed to go and then alleviate this gray? And now you have, so what I did is make these two wires correct to this terminal. This yellow wire has been removed from here, reconnected to this yellow wire, and now this is in the proper spot with the proper yellow wire and, more importantly, the proper gauge. So I think we have it figured out. All right, everybody, I think I'll close it out here. I'm sure you've seen enough wires by now. I know I have. I've got all the repairs completed. I just need to finish tidying up and get the floor cleaned up here, and then I'll get the dashboard and put it in place, get all the components back on and installed. I'm looking forward to having the battery connected so I can move on to some other things, and I'll bring you back, of course, when I get to those parts. So thanks for watching, and I appreciate every one of you. I'll see you in the next video.